Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here and spending some of your conference afternoon with us on this sunny day in a windowless room. It's nice to see everyone. I'm Ellen Gardner from Adobe on the CSR team, and I'm excited to have this conversation with these two great leaders in the skilling and training space. So I guess just to start us off and maybe ground us, Karine, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about what AI and the buzzword of this whole conference, of this whole year, is Gen AI. What are you seeing around Gen AI adoption broadly, including like in the skilling space, and what customers are really looking for when they're thinking about AI skilling?
Yes, so you might actually have heard it in some of the other sessions today with maybe our CEO. I've seen when we launched Gen AI Academy, which was really around Gen AI for everyone, Gen AI literacy in 2023, it started already as a rocket ship where every minute we had one enrollment on the platform. And today it's actually 9 enrollment per minute. So the appetite to drive literacy, to adopt literacy is really, really high. But what we are seeing specifically in the enterprise is it's changing almost every roles. And so the latest reports from the World Economic Forum and the Future of Work is highlighting that there will be about 92 million of roles that are going to be eliminated and about 170 roles that are going to be created. And so everybody is really looking today at how their role is changing, or even if it's still going to be around, or if there are new roles that they can actually get trained for and upskill for. But it's not so much just the Gen AI skills. Some of the top 10 skills that we also see being developed at the same time are human resilience skills. So it's critical thinking, communication, collaboration with others. And so in the context of Gen AI and the development of personalized experiences, thanks to Gen AI and machine learning, we're seeing roles like machine learning specialists, big data specialists, fintech specialists being the one that will need the most development.
And Adobe, we're a creative company. It's in our DNA. Are you seeing, how are you seeing just industry trends both on the demand side and the consumer side around creativity and AI enabling, or perhaps putting that at risk in some ways?
Yeah, so because now everyone is expecting to have a personalized experience, there is a connection between the Gen AI skills and creativity that is, now obvious and everywhere. Social media, digital marketing are some of the trends that are changing the way we market, the way we build product, the way we drive experiences with customers. So we're seeing, a big trend of the connection of AI and creativity, and also technical and human skills.
Does that resonate with you, Amy? Like when you think about the intersection of AI and creativity and the things we're talking about at Adobe?
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of the trends that Karine mentioned are similar to what we have been thinking about as a creative company for over 40 years, thinking about our core identity is supporting creators to tell stories. And those are amateur creators, those are professionals, those are people in marketing organizations, is that the idea that you can't be what you can't see is a part of who we are. And so we are really trying to think about how AI is a tool in your toolkit, is that it's one more way for you to think about how you're going to tell that story. And in some ways thinking about, does it take away some of the tasks that you are the least compelling to you? But also where we found on the skilling side is that it's actually a way to close the gap, the opportunity gap, the digital divide, to create opportunities where folks who haven't had breakthrough moments in those creative roles or creative opportunities now suddenly, through prompt and AI engineering, can think about how to create a marketing campaign when they maybe hadn't even envisioned that before. So I think the market potential of what it unlocks for learners and for students is really, really powerful. And I think we're trying to figure out how do you optimize that so the folks who have had the least amount of opportunity historically, because those creative creative careers have been a little bit hard to tap into. Now everybody has a design buddy alongside them, helping them prompt, helping them think about what words they might use to visually create that story they're trying to tell.
Yeah, I like what you're saying about it being a tool in the toolbox, AI. I'm a Pivot podcast fan, and Scott Galloway always says, AI is not going to take your job. Someone who knows how to use AI is going to take your job. And so how do you think about, that side-by-side, support of AI? I'm wondering, Karine, with all this rapid change and rise of AI, what you're seeing in terms of demand, like what skills and jobs are you seeing as the most demand? You talked about those 10 sort of like softer skills. What else are you seeing?
So the jobs, there are fintech jobs, like worldwide fintech jobs, big data analyst jobs, AI jobs, but we also see the key roles that are being changed are marketing, customer support, and of course product and development. And so some roles will have like 10, 20% of their roles changing. Some other roles are more, are going to be more transformed, like the one I highlighted initially. And so you could have then in different places, different countries, different industries. Like for instance, Thailand right now is saying they're going to be the EV country. So you have an additional EV industry focused, or Philippines saying they're going to be, the next semiconductor, country. And so we're seeing we not only have global trends, but then we have local or regional or country skills that are being developed. But something that is clear is everywhere there is more consumption of social content. And so with this, the creative economy, we've seen that we actually do need to create, access to tools, resources, and that's why I think I'm so excited about a partnership to empower everyone to be able to not only do their jobs, but leverage the creative side of their jobs, because this is how people are communicating and sharing content and expertise today.
And I think that to complement that, I think part of the way that we have been thinking about this together is how do you complement great skilling and great content with practical tools and experience. And I do think that's a little bit of a differentiator of the Digital Academy program that our friends at Coursera really helped us think through is we all consume a lot of content all the time. And whether or not you're learning from that, but then taking what you learned around the principles of design or thinking about how to ideate on marketing analytics but then taking that into a tool and actually designing the piece of content or looking at the dashboard and having to analyze that as a part of the learning journey is something that I think that complement brings you into a practical real life experience where you're applying what you've learned. And I think that that is the way that we're gonna get at this, is that you can't just have the learning, you have to then have the application, which in theory, in our hypothesis, gives you two skills, is now you know the creative skill, you know the philosophy, the design principles, but you also can say, I know how to use Creative Cloud or Photoshop or Adobe Express, so you get sort of a 2-for-1.
Yeah, and one of the things is when we launched Gen AI Academy in 2023, it was not just content we launched. We also launched our coach, that is a 24/7 tutor. We launched the ability to customize experience. And we just launched Coach Dialogue, which is really bringing the instructor into a dialogue, whether it's text or voice, and really cloning a practice. And in addition, because AI is everywhere in all of the training, we created this playground with all the key LMMs to be able to play with, because it's critical. It's not like online learning is not anymore about the video and watching and then answering a few questions. It's how do you actually practice, but bring more of the instructors, bring more of the SMEs, to people anywhere they are and whenever they need it.
So, Amy, you lead corporate social responsibility for Adobe. You're my boss. And I'm wondering, can you talk a little bit about why did Adobe decide to invest in this area from, I think, both a social impact perspective, the change you hope to see in the world through investing in training, and a business perspective?
So I think that one of the things is, as corporations mature, and then we're all in an era of sort of that triple bottom line we've been talking about for decades, is trying to connect your social impact to your business outcomes is a really, really smart and future-proof way to set up your CSR strategy. And so, so when we were doing some analysis about what is Adobe best at, and how do we figure out a program that can operate at scale, I think it became really obvious that we can't necessarily scale individual classes teaching people how to use Premiere Pro, but we can think about this future workforce and how we can enable both creative professionals into the future, but also as we think about the emerging the knowledge worker, the multi-hyphenates, the content creators who are also students, all the things is that we can, through our skilling program, can sort of touch a much larger scale. And so things that are good for the business always help. So we get product support, we get financial support, we get marketing support when you're talking about the products and the outcomes that they're interested in. But then also to be able to say, wouldn't it be interesting if we could drive towards student success as well, or to propel those social impact initiatives forward? And I think, so tying it to the things that other people care about helps us get further faster, but also I think is able to prove the value Adobe as a brand is having in the broader ecosystem, not just an individual program, but sort of how and what our ethos are as we come to life. For 40 years, we've been committed to this idea of creativity for all, and I think this is the first time in a very long time we've had ambitions in the tens of millions to operate and make that idea a reality. So. Mm-hmm.
And for us, really, this is what we're looking to do, which is democratizing access of the skills that people are in need of. And when we identified some of those key trends, then we identified the best partners that can, work with us and deliver, high quality content and hands-on learning to people at scale. And so this was a perfect way of connecting these together with Coursera and Adobe.
And what we've heard from some of our talent partners, some of our HR experts, is that in a sea of credentials that individual HR managers need to navigate and figure out which is good, which is not, what we've heard is that pairing sort of like an industry best-in-class brand with a best-in-class training provider is really where that magic can happen, and where it really helps an HR person identify that this is a high-quality skilling program. I'm wondering how you think about that on Coursera and sort of like your role in terms of enterprise. How do you identify who those partners are based on what learners are looking for?
So we really have, in terms of content creator today, we're seeing either academic institutions are some key partners, like we have Vanderbilt University, for instance, and Dr. White's, which is just been incredible in some of our AI content, but also specific industries or skills like creativity. The creative economy is one of them. We have our tech, we have Meta and Google and IBM and Microsoft, because they're also the ones that are delivering those tools, right? And so those are how we are selecting our partners. But at the end of the day, the organizations that are really taking the leads are the organizations that have been able to define what skills are important. What are the skills for which role? Where are they? Where do they have gaps? And a skill-based organization is not something that is easy to get to, and the maturity varies drastically in the market. But the more the team and the CLOs and the functional leaders know what skills are going to be important for them for next month in a year, is where we can really accompany them and provide the right mission-critical skills for them.
That's great. So we kind of skipped ahead, which I guess is the moderator's fault. But can you talk a little bit, Amy, about our partnership with Coursera? You talked about goals of training people in the millions. Do you want to talk a little bit about what Digital Academy is and our aspirations there?
Sure. I think there's a couple things that I'm just reflecting is that I do think there's a lot of ambition went into the development of this program. How do you identify the market-based skills that are actually in demand? So start there. How do you tie it to both the product and business outcomes of the company while also driving social impact? Okay, that's hard too. And then how do you think about geography in a global economy? Okay, and then how do you think about technology as an enabler at a time when AI is, depending on which newspaper you flip to, is good or bad? And so I think there's a lot of things that went into the careful curation of this, of thinking about how do we think about scale, how do we think about reaching folks who have had either limited or less opportunity to have learning served up in a way that is not just in time, is just right size and in the right place at the right time. And so I'm really digging in on that. How do we make Adobe for all? How do we make creativity for all? And focusing in on that. And so actually Ellen, let's be clear, it's Ellen's program. Ellen introduced us to Coursera really thinking about that best-in-class piece, is if we're gonna go out with a goal of 30 million people, we can't do that alone, and we can't do it through traditional pathways. Is that we've had several conversations this week even about, it's great that it's out there, but now what's the next model? What's the iterative model? How do we innovate on where we're in front of people? And so I think the goal is to reach 30 million learners by 2030, with a focus first on the US, UK, and India markets, because that's where Adobe, from a business perspective, has a lot of footholds. Doesn't mean we don't have customers everywhere, but we have the greatest opportunity to go the fastest in those places. And then thinking about, okay, how do we improve our online learning content? How do we continually improve it and integrate more AI skilling and more pieces that folks we know are looking for? And then how do we match that with job placement programs? So a lot of why we're here is, yes, we want to get skills to everybody, but skills for skills' sake is kind of a waste of time. And so figuring out, great, you have the skills and you know how to use this product now. Now how do we help you? What do we complement? And that was really sort of the tipping point with the Coursera team, was to say, we are also committed to getting folks into this marketplace, to tying down and committing to jobs and for these learners. And then also thinking about how we upskill existing workers. And I think that's actually been a strong theme this week, is that as AI continues to, in some ways, take away some of those entry-level skills that are needed, what does that mean for folks entering the workforce? How do we get them to even sort of catapult or pole vault past that first entry-level job into the second or third is an area that we really, I think, need to focus on. And so that's our ambition. I think the job placement piece is the really hard one right now, economically and in the macro environment, but we remain committed to it. And then continuing to really focus on how do we get the folks who have had the least opportunity to have these educational opportunities into the pipeline.
Yeah, and for us, it became very clear, as with the content, social content and digital content consumption is growing so quickly. McKinsey was saying that the industry would reach by 2027 like $1 trillion, a quarter of a trillion. That is just an enormous opportunity. And as we have now this certificate, we also not only have it as part of our platform for consumers, but we also have a program called Coursera for Campus, where actually in the regions where this is a skill that is in demand, we can also have campuses and academic institutions integrating that into their curriculum to increase the employability of their students. So it's this distribution channel can really widen.
Yeah, we love that about Coursera, the direct-to-consumer, the students, and then obviously also the enterprise work you're doing with folks who are already employed. So I see we're at time, and I think if anyone has questions, we'll stick around for a little bit after, but thank you both for the conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for being here.